You think dinner with friends is just dinner. But that night, it was the beginning of everything falling apart. The house smelled like rosemary chicken and burnt garlic bread. The table was set, candles lit, soft jazz playing in the background. It looked like a warm, perfect evening. But inside me, I felt hollow. He'd invited them over last minute. No surprise. No, how was your day? Just, the guys are coming. Can you throw something together? And like always, I did. Because that's what I do. I hold it all together, even when I'm falling apart inside. I wasn't angry. Not exactly. Just tired. Tired of being the background to his life. Tired of pouring everything into a marriage that barely noticed me anymore. Then they arrived. 3 men laughing, clapping each other on the back, talking loud about things that didn't matter to me. I served them wine, smiled, sat down like a good hostess. But one of them, Daniel, he looked at me like I was more than just someone's wife. He asked me how I was. Not in passing, really asked. And when I laughed at something he said, it had been so long since someone made me laugh like that. I didn't mean for anything to happen. I wasn't looking for attention. But something about the way he saw me, it woke something up. A quiet ache. A need I'd pushed down for too long. To feel seen. To feel wanted. It was nothing. Just dinner. Just a moment. But something shifted that night. In the way he looked at me. In the way I didn't look away. And the version of me who sat down at that table? She never came back. Subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold. This is where the quiet stories speak the loudest. And sometimes, dinner is just the start. I had planned the dinner. Cleaned every corner. Cooked his favorite meal, herb chicken with honey-glazed carrots, just the way he likes it. Set the table with the good plates. Lit candles. Folded the napkins in that little triangle he always says doesn't matter but notices when I don't do it. And still, he barely looked at me. Not a "you look nice," not a "thank you for putting this together." Just a glance past me, then back to his phone, texting about something that clearly couldn't wait. That's how he's been lately, charismatic in public, cold in private. He smiles when the world is watching. But when the door closes, so does he. Then they arrived. Eli came first. Married, polite, always has that easy confidence like he belongs in every room. He kissed my cheek, said the house looked beautiful. I smiled. It was automatic. Then Daniel walked in. Divorced 6 months ago. New to the single life again, but carrying that kind of quiet pain you don't speak out loud. He used to be funnier, louder. But tonight he looked calmer. Softer, somehow. They sat down, and the room filled with their laughter. Not mine. Not his. Theirs. I poured the wine, passed the bread, played the role. Like I always do. And somewhere between the second glass and the first story about college days I'd heard 100 times, I realized how empty I felt sitting next to the man I used to dream about. But they noticed me. Noticed the food. Noticed the effort. Especially Daniel. He watched me more than he spoke. Asked questions. Simple things, really. Do you still paint? How's your mom doing? Questions my husband hadn't asked in years. I nodded, smiled, told him little things. But inside, something tightened. That ache again. That thing I thought I'd buried beneath chores and dinners and being the good wife. The room looked perfect. Warm lighting. The smell of roasted rosemary. But it felt sterile. Like a hotel room after checkout. No life. No heat. No one really home. I looked at my husband, laughing at Eli's joke, hand resting on his drink like nothing in the world was wrong. And I sat there wondering, does he even see me anymore? Daniel did, and I hated how much I liked that. He told me they were coming just 2 hours before they showed up. No warning, no offer to help. Just walked through the door, loosened his tie, and said, Eli and Daniel are stopping by. Can you make something? Like I wasn't already bone-tired from the day. Like I didn't have anything else to carry but his expectations. But I said yes. Because I always do. Because that's who I've become. I cooked, cleaned, smiled through the headache forming behind my eyes. By the time they arrived, I had pushed every ounce of myself to the edge, just to make sure he looked good. Because somewhere along the line, his reputation became more important than my rest. Dinner started off the same as always. Them talking. Him performing. I sat there, half listening, nodding, refilling glasses. And then Daniel turned to me and asked, "Do you still paint?" It caught me off guard. I hadn't picked up a brush in over a year. Not since the kids got older. Not since the house got quieter. Not since he stopped noticing. I told him I hadn't. He looked at me for a moment, really looked, and said, "You should. You always lit up when you talked about it." That made me pause. No one had mentioned my art in over a year. Not my husband. Not even me. Later, as I brought out dessert, Daniel helped me carry the plates to the table. And when he brushed past me, he said, "You deserve to be seen, heard, cherished." Just like that. Like it was a fact, not a compliment, not a flirtation. Just truth. And my body, it didn't respond with fear. It responded with heat. A quiet, steady warmth that curled up in my chest and refused to leave. I laughed at something he said a few minutes later. Really laughed. And my husband didn't even look up from his plate. But Daniel did. That night, someone finally looked at me, like I mattered. And I hated how good it felt. Or maybe I didn't hate it at all. I kept telling myself, it's just a conversation. But something in me had already crossed a line. And it wasn't about Daniel. Not really. It was about me, and everything I'd buried just to keep surviving in a marriage that had stopped seeing me years ago. Was I lonely? Or just selfish? Did I want Daniel's attention? Or did I just want to feel alive again? Because the truth is, I hadn't felt anything in a long time. Not warmth. Not excitement. Not even desire. Just routine. Wake up. Make breakfast. Smile. Work. Dinner. Sleep. Repeat. We used to laugh, my husband and I. Dance in the kitchen. Sneak kisses before the kids saw. Now, we barely touched. We moved around each other like ghosts sharing the same floor plan. He slept on his side of the bed. I curled into mine, wondering how love turns cold without anyone noticing. I tried to bring it back. Planned date nights. Left notes in his briefcase. Bought new lingerie once. He didn't even blink. Said he was tired. Work had him stressed. Maybe next week. But weeks turned into months. And months turned into anniversaries forgotten. The last time he remembered my birthday was 3 years ago. Even then, he handed me a card from the pharmacy with a gift card tucked inside. Didn't even write a note. Just signed his name. It wasn't the gift. It was what it meant. I started to believe maybe I was too much. Or not enough. Or both. I told myself I shouldn't need so much. That this was just what marriage looked like after a while. But when Daniel looked at me that night, not with hunger. Not with pity. Just presence, something in me cracked. And once it cracked, I couldn't stop the pieces from shifting inside me. I'd catch myself glancing at him when he spoke, waiting for him to look my way again, just to feel that tiny flicker of warmth return. I tried to shake it, tried to remind myself I was married, a mother, a woman with vows and history and a home to protect. But then I'd look across the table at the man who promised me forever and now couldn't even promise me eye contact. The shame came in waves. Every time I laughed at something Daniel said, a voice in my head whispered, "Stop." But another voice whispered louder, "Just one more minute. Just let yourself feel it a little longer." I wasn't planning anything. I wasn't chasing it. But I wasn't turning away either. And I knew that's where it begins. Not with a kiss. Not with a lie, but with a hunger you stop hiding. A hunger you finally let rise to the surface. After dessert, Eli left first. He had an early morning meeting, the kind of man who always has somewhere important to be. My husband walked him out, laughing, slapping his back like they were still in college. And then, just as the door clicked shut, he turned to me and said, "I need to take this call. It's work. Won't be long." He didn't wait for a response. Just walked into the study and closed the door behind him. That left me and Daniel still sitting at the table, the candle between us flickering low. The music had stopped by then. Or maybe I just stopped hearing it, because the silence between us was louder. He stood and began gathering plates. Said, "Let me help you clean up." I shook my head. "You don't have to." He looked at me, soft smile playing on his lips. "I know. That's why I'm doing it." I didn't stop him. We stood shoulder to shoulder at the sink. His sleeves rolled up, hands wet, mine trembling slightly. We talked. Not about anything important, but not about nothing either. And then it happened. His hand brushed mine light, almost clumsy. Except, it didn't feel clumsy. It felt intentional. I froze. He didn't pull back. And neither did I. It was a touch so small, it should have meant nothing. But it felt like lightning, like every nerve in my body suddenly remembered what it meant to be awake. I looked at him. He looked back. No words, just silence heavy with things we weren't saying. My mind screamed move, but my body didn't listen. It leaned, just barely, but enough. And in that moment, I knew. If I didn't walk away now, I might never want to. And then, he asked me something that changed everything. We were still standing by the sink, dishes half-washed, hearts full of noise. The light above us flickered softly, casting shadows that felt too honest. Daniel had stopped moving. He was just looking at me. I could feel his breath. Not on my skin, but in the space between us. And then, almost in a whisper, he asked me if things were different. Would you let someone love you better? I didn't speak. I couldn't. The question didn't ask for an answer. It exposed one. And my silence. It said everything. I didn't step back. I didn't tell him no. I just stood there held in place by a truth I hadn't dared admit even to myself. I wanted to be loved better. I needed it. He moved a little closer. Not suddenly, not like in the movies, but slow, intentional. As if giving me time to stop it. I didn't. And then, like breath meeting breath, his lips touched mine. It was brief. Barely a kiss. But everything inside me shattered open. Not from lust. Not from guilt. From the recognition that someone had finally reached the part of me that had been left untouched for so long. It was soft. And wrong. And real. But then, the front door opened. The sound cracked through the room like a gunshot. We pulled apart. Fast, sharp, like guilt had grabbed us by the collar. My husband walked in. Phone still in hand. Eyes tired. He didn't see the kiss. But he saw something else. He saw the space between me and Daniel, and how that space was charged with something he hadn't felt in years. He froze for just a second. Then blinked. Put on that tired half-smile and said, "Everything okay in here?" Daniel cleared his throat. Said something about heading out. Grabbed his coat. Didn't look back. And me? I stood there, trying to act like nothing had happened, when everything inside me knew something had. He didn't see the kiss. But he saw our distance, and the heat between us. And that was enough to break something. The silence in the room after Daniel left was thick. Not the comfortable kind. Not the kind that follows a long day or a quiet moment between two people who know each other's hearts. This was the kind that hangs in the air like smoke, hard to breathe, impossible to ignore. He didn't ask what happened. Didn't press. Just walked past me, grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge, and said, "You coming to bed?" Like it was any other night. But it wasn't. Everything felt off. Even the floorboards beneath my feet felt different. Like they knew. Like the house itself had witnessed something it couldn't unsee. I went upstairs. Slipped under the covers beside him. He scrolled through his phone for a bit, then turned off the light. No kiss. No questions. But the next morning, he brought me coffee in bed. And the day after that, he offered to pick up the kids from school. By the weekend, he was asking if I wanted to go out, just the two of us. Dinner reservations. Reservations. He was being kind, gentle, even affectionate. And I hated that it didn't feel like love. It felt like guilt, or fear, or maybe just performance. Daniel never came back. Not a message, not a call, not a thank you for dinner. Just gone, but not from my mind. At night, I'd lie awake replaying that moment at the sink. The brush of his hand, the look in his eyes, the question he asked that still echoed louder than anything my husband had said in months. Would you let someone love you better? And I still didn't have an answer. All I knew was this: I didn't cheat. Not fully, not with my body. But somehow, I still lost something sacred that night. Maybe my dignity, maybe my peace, maybe the quiet lie I used to tell myself that I was fine. They say a kiss is just a kiss. But this one opened a door I can't seem to close. And I keep standing in that doorway, one foot in the life I've built, and the other in the ache I never meant to feed. I didn't mean for it to happen. That's the part that stings the most. Not the moment itself, but how easily I stepped into it. How ready I was to feel something, anything. Because what do you do when someone finally sees you, but it's not the person who vowed to? What do you do when your heart answers a question your head never gave permission to ask? I've been asking myself every night, was it betrayal, or was it a cry for help I didn't know how to say out loud? Because it wasn't just the kiss. It was everything before it. The years of being looked through. The anniversaries skipped. The conversations cut short. The nights I cried quietly in the bathroom just so the kids wouldn't hear. And when Daniel said those words, "You deserve to be seen, heard, cherished," it broke something open in me. It felt like being handed water after years in a desert. And maybe I drank too fast. Maybe I should have looked away. But I didn't, because there's a danger in being seen by the wrong person. It feels a lot like being loved, but it's not love, it's recognition. And when you've gone too long without it, you start mistaking it for a lifeline. Now I can't stop wondering, was my marriage already broken long before that night? Or did I break it with one moment I can't take back? I sit across from him now at the dinner table, and I see the way he tries. The way he's suddenly present. But I don't know if it's real, or just the fear of losing something he didn't know was slipping. And I wonder if he senses it that I've changed. That even though my body's still here, part of me walked out that night. Walked right through the crack in the silence and never returned. Have you ever been tempted? Not out of lust, not out of recklessness, but just for wanting to feel alive again? Not to destroy anything, not to betray anyone, but just to remember what it felt like to be seen. To be touched not by hands, but by someone's attention, someone's care. Have you ever caught yourself standing at the edge of something you swore you'd never cross, and still you didn't take a step back? Because I've been asking myself over and over, was I wrong for what I did? Or was I just human? Human in the way we crave connection. Human in the way we ache when we're forgotten. Human in the way we reach out when we've been empty too long. It wasn't about Daniel. Not really. It was about that small, quiet voice inside me, the one that had gone unheard for years, suddenly whispering, "You still exist." I don't know what you'll think of me after this. But if you've ever been in that space, between loyalty and longing, between numbness and a flicker of feeling, then maybe you'll understand. If you do, tell me. Share your truth in the comments. No judgment here. Just stories we're usually too afraid to say out loud. If this story touched something in you, subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold, where the quietest moments speak the loudest truths. Tap the bell, because the next story might just echo your own. Some betrayals don't begin in bedrooms. They begin at dinner tables. In the way someone laughs at your joke like it matters. In the way someone holds your gaze a little too long. In the moment when silence between two people says more than words ever could. That night didn't end with passion. It didn't explode. It cracked. Softly. And then the pieces started shifting. I still live in that silence. In the space between what happened and what almost did. And every night, I wonder if I'd take it all back if I could. But here's what I've come to understand. Be careful who you allow to see you. Because some eyes don't just look. They pull. They reach inside and remind you of the pieces you thought were long gone. And once you've been touched there, you never quite go back to who you were before. Some stories aren't easy to forgive, especially the ones we write with our silence. And this one, this is mine.